Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Believe in best.
Tonight on Our News, a hot day for Team Bahamas on the track at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Is mandatory vaccination the way forward for healthcare workers? The acting parliamentary commissioner defends the permanent voter register. Why environmentalists say conch needs to be better protected. And a little later, how a magnet school is offering an alternative education. Welcome to Our News, and thanks for joining us on this Emancipation Day. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, a hot day on the tracks for Team Bahamas at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, but it wasn't without some controversy. Marcellus Hall is in Tokyo with the latest.
Welcome to our sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall, once again here in Tokyo, courtesy of our friends over at J.S. Johnson. It was indeed a busy day as we moved into day 10 of competition at these Olympiads in Tokyo. A busy day as well for Team Bahamas. We had a lot of athletes in action on the track, and let's take a look right now and quickly tell you how they did. Devon Charlton, the first Bahamian finalist at these Olympic Games in Tokyo. Charlton in the finals of the women's 100-meter hurdles. She would run out of lane 8. As the race getting underway, Charlton keeping pace through the first 3 hurdles, but she would give ground slowly as the race progressed, eventually finishing 6th in a time of 12.74 seconds. Jasmine Quinn Camacho of Puerto Rico would take gold, with American Kendra Harrison the silver and Jamaican Megan Tapper the bronze, afterward Charlton grading her performance.
I felt pretty good going into it. I just didn't think the execution was there like it was last night. That was the race I needed, but I gave it what I had today, and I'm proud of that much. In the past few weeks of just training up to this, we didn't have the kind of time, but working on some things in practice. I think if I get back to that for next year, I'll be all the more better.
Women's 200 semifinals, that saw Anthony Strawn running in Heat 1. Strawn right on the inside of Jamaican Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, getting out to a bit of a slow start from the blocks, but finishing strong down the stretch. She would manage a third in the season's best for her of 22.56. She spoke with us afterwards.
I feel really well. I mean, I know where I messed up at. It was the start. I got distracted by the long hold, so it's my fault. And I just have to go from there and wait. But all in all, I'm really happy with it. I can't complain. The season has been long because it's not just a 1-year season, but a 2-year season.
Shawnee Miller-Weber would be up next in Heat 3, running out of lane 4 here. Miller-Weber finding herself behind, heading into the final 100 meters, but able to charge back. She finishes second in 22.14, advancing to the final in the process.
I'm very happy with it. The main thing is just to make it into the rounds as safely as possible, and we're on to the final tomorrow night. Don't worry about all of that. Tomorrow's the final, so we're going to bring all that A game.
Semifinals of the men's 400 also on the schedule for today. Alonzo Russell in the second of the 3 heats was unable to make it through to the final, finishing 8th here in 46.04.
Try to execute the race plan as good as I can, but I think I fell short in the area as it relates to the box straight. I feel like I kind of messed the race plan up, but I mean,
World champion Stephen Gardner would run in Heat 3 in a tough field. That, however, would not pose a problem as Gardner moves on with a 44.14 performance. This despite wearing a T-shirt after filling the package top before the race.
Long story. I thought I packed my bag earlier this morning. I did pack it, but I forgot my top. So I was like, it's too late to punk out now. I already made it this far. Just one more round. Who cares? It's a T-shirt. It's a shirt. But yeah, I'm in a T-shirt. My coach, we talked about it before we went out, and we prayed about it, and he just said to just do what we do in practice, and that's what we did. We set up the first part, nice and smooth down the back. Coming around the second bend, we always there, and then coming home, just know when to make my move. If I think I can hold it at 150, just go at 150, and I think I went about 110, and I just went for it.
So as you saw, a very, very full day for Team Bahamas. Some very good results overall across the board. Looking forward to that continuing as the week progresses. Of course, tomorrow we'll see Shawnee Miller-Weber once again back in action. And let's not forget Stephen Gardner. In just a couple of days, will be trying to win a gold medal in the men's 400-meter finale. We'll see how that indeed turns out. And we'll see exactly how Team Bahamas continues to do as this Olympiad continue in Tokyo. Reporting from Tokyo, I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you.
Thanks, Marcellus. Tokyo 2020 action continues with Rev on channels 212, 243, and 244. Follow along on our Facebook page for the highlights. In other news, Doctors Hospital is taking a sobering and careful look at vaccinations, according to hospital CEO and President Dr. Charles Digges. As speculation looms over whether or not government will seek to implement the mandatory COVID-19 vaccination of healthcare workers, Dr. Digges says he has noticed a trend among health professionals.
We keep coming up with around 120, which seems just over 10%, which it would cause you to step back a bit and ask, well, why wouldn't, given the information about the benefits of vaccination, why wouldn't even a doctor's hospital healthcare workspace see 40, 50, 60%.
Chief Medical Officer Dr. Pearl McMillan recently suggested that government was exploring mandatory vaccinations for healthcare workers, given the growing number of COVID-19 cases. Dr. Digges tells our news it isn't that simple.
It's probably not prudent at this stage to put mandatory and vaccination in the same sentence. The Bahamians that you and I know, you are quite clear that the minute you go to you have to do it, you're going to go into some turbulent waters.
Last week, dozens of healthcare systems representing millions of doctors, nurses, and pharmacists in the United States began lobbying for mandatory COVID-19 vaccinations. Some countries have rolled out mandatory vaccination for nursing home workers. In Canada, the government is also considering whether it ought to be a requirement to hold roles and positions in the federal government. More extreme is France, which will require proof of vaccination for anyone wishing to attend the cinema or board a train. But before the government considers making anything mandatory, Dr. Digges says Bahamians and residents should think about their patriotic duty.
If you're patriotic and you believe that, well, maybe I should protect the limited resources that my country has, both public and private sector, and then being vaccinated would mean I don't become a burden in the COVID space, I think that becomes truly a no-brainer.
The number of fully vaccinated people in the country continues to grow as 46,793 Bahamians and residents are now fully vaccinated. According to the Ministry of Health's vaccine tracker, 106,898 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine have been administered to date, and 61,803 people have received their first dose of the vaccine. The Bahamas will receive the third tranche of 33,600 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine paid for through the COVAX facility tomorrow. Well, nearly 2 months after announcing families of frontline healthcare workers lost during the COVID-19 pandemic will receive a $100,000 honorarium by the end of July, Health Minister Renward Wells says the checks have been cut.
The government of the Bahamas had made the decision to pay the $400,000 for the four nurses who would have passed away. Since then, we have had 2 other nurses who would have succumbed in the line of duty. The government of the Bahamas approved, as I said, almost a month ago, the $400,000 for them. The checks have been made, and those will be issued to the families.
The Minister administration promised $100,000 to the family of every individual in the healthcare sector who died in the course of treating COVID-19 patients.
We do have a circumstance where, when someone passes on, and there are sometimes some legal issues with who is actually the beneficiary. We have that with, I think, maybe 2 of those who would have passed on.
In addition to paying those nurses who died, the Minister administration has also promised to pay an additional $600,000 to 150 healthcare workers on the front line of the fight against COVID-19. And freedom is one of the most precious things in the world, according to Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis, sending a message on the celebration of Emancipation Day this year. In a post shared on his social media, the Prime Minister says, "On Emancipation Day, we remember the legacy of slavery and the struggle to free ourselves from the bondage of the yokes of oppression and colonialism. This as we acknowledge that all freedoms are joined to corresponding rights and responsibilities." Still to come on our news, the Parliamentary Registration Department continues work on the voter register. An F&M MP says he's given it his best shot and promoting business education for high school students. That's coming up when our news returns.
Every new season of On the Record, we push the limits. Venture into unknown territory. We take our cameras into places unseen before. We share the stories and experiences that affect us all. And now it's time for Season 5. On the Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on RTV Cable Channel 212 and streaming live on Facebook on the R News Bahamas page.
Acting Parliamentary Commissioner Lovato Duncanson responding to ongoing concerns about the integrity of the voter register, saying there are constant checks to ensure it remains as problem-free as possible. Jasmine Brown reports.
One of the things we do is the purging of the register is an ongoing exercise. And so one of the areas that we receive confirmation as the person's passing away is the Registrar General's Department, because that's the government agency that issues death certificates. And so we certainly look towards that organization, that agency. And when we receive, and we're in constant communications with them on a quarterly basis, we receive the update as far as persons who would have passed, who would have died. Those persons are removed from the register.
While the next election is not scheduled to take place until May 2022, there has been significant speculation for months that the Prime Minister is considering calling an early election. Progressive Liberal Party leader Philip Davis has said he believes the Parliamentary Registration Department is under-resourced and will not be able to ensure an accurate register in the event of an early election. Duncanson disagreed.
There are any number of ways that we utilize to confirm deaths, and once we confirm a death by way of the authorized agency, government agency, which is the Registrar General's Department, in addition to the newspapers, etc., then those persons are removed from the register, and that is an ongoing exercise.
The Parliamentary Elections Amendment Bill 2020, which was passed in Parliament last December, established a permanent voters register. Registered voters already on the current register are not required to register to vote again. Those who will vote for the first time are required to register. Voters on the current register who have moved between constituencies must apply to have their registration transferred and have their voter's card amended to reflect the changes. The names of the deceased, as well as people who have lost their right to vote, are supposed to be removed from the register.
Efforts continue within the Parliamentary Voter Registration Department to remove persons once it is confirmed. There's a process we must follow, and we do that. And the numbers, the report, indicate that there is the constant variation in the overall numbers of the registration, the register, to confirm that we're actually removing persons who are legally eligible for removal, and we are retaining those persons who are legally eligible to be retained.
Reporting for our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Both former Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands expressing confidence in his chances in the next election. Berthany McDermott has that.
JoBeth Colby is my political opponent, not my enemy. She will get a fair fight from me, and I expect at the end of the day that she will be soundly defeated.
On Election Day, Elizabeth Member of Parliament Dr. Dwayne Sands fully intends to hold on to his seat in Parliament due to the work he has put in on the ground in the last 4 years.
I've given it my best shot. We have had some challenges with COVID. We've had challenges with lockdowns. We've had challenges with Dorian. We've had challenges with the economy, and I could go on and on. But it's been a privilege for me to serve.
This election will be the fourth time Sands has thrown his hat into the ring. The last 4 years haven't come without some challenges for the MP. In May 2020, he resigned as health minister over controversy surrounding persons disembarking a private aircraft. Now a backbencher, Sands has become more outspoken on decisions made by the Minnis administration.
The beauty of a democracy is it's that. One man, one woman, one vote. And what goes into the decision that an individual makes is multifactorial. How they think about the leader, what they think about the party, what they think about the candidate, what their personal circumstance is, how they feel about crime, healthcare, the economy, whether they can pay their mortgage or their light bill. And I could go on and on and on. You shake that all up, and ultimately when somebody goes in that ballot box, they will place an X in support of the candidate of their choice, or in some instances, against a candidate that they no longer wish to support.
Sands defeated the PLP's candidate in the 2017 election by 1,444 votes. This time, he'll be going head-to-head with PLP Senator JoBeth Colby Davis. Sands touted accomplishments in his constituencies like computer donations as well as after-school, cleanup, and feeding programs.
We made it our own mission to ensure that as many people as possible could eat. And so when we look at our food bank, we have given out almost 20,000 bags of groceries.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Well, more than $700,000 in upgrades on tap for the National Emergency Management Agency's Operations Center. The U.S. Southern Command contributing a significant portion of that figure. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Disaster Preparedness, Management and Reconstruction, Carl Smith, explains.
We can more efficiently gather, analyze, and disseminate the information. So that is what this facility does in a much more efficient way, in a more timely way. And then as part of the programming, you have to do situation reports.
Smith says the upgrades brought improved communications between the islands during a disaster and training. The facility will bring 14 critical emergency functions together under one roof.
In here, there are various desks. We have, I think, 14, what we call them, emergency support functions. These functions are critical functions that you want to have up and operating, even though you have a disaster. So communication is one of those functions. And health is one of those functions. Transportation is one of those functions.
When Our News comes back from the break, a call for greater enforcement of conch regulations, plus alternative education for high schoolers. The details when Our News returns.
Every new season of On the Record, we push the limits. Venture into unknown territory. We take our cameras into places unseen before. We share the stories and experiences that affect us all. And now it's time for Season 5. On the Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on RTV Cable Channel 212 and streaming live on Facebook on the Our News Bahamas page.
This is Our News. Welcome back. More enforcement of regulations is needed to help protect conch in Bahamian waters, according to Bahamas National Trust Executive Director Eric Carey. Local environmentalists taking note of evidence suggesting the Bahamas could lose its queen conch population in 2 decades if more measures aren't put in place.
There needs to be enforcement. There's incredible legislation. The Department of Environment and Planning is an incredible department with a broad and powerful mandate. But, Rochelle Newbold needs more staff, needs more eyes and ears on different islands and in New Providence. So the legislation is good, and that's been very progressive. Where we need to see more action from the government is more enforcement, more people to actually do enforcement so that we could actually have a positive impact and effect on the measures that we're hoping to put in place to protect things like conch, Nassau grouper, spiny lobster, you name it.
Government has been mulling over the implementation of a conch season, which some fishermen have opposed. However, Kerry says the government is moving in the right direction.
I must say, Minister Pindar accepted the recommendations put forward by the conservation movement, which did include representatives from the Department of Marine Resources, and the recommendations that we put forward, which included banning exports, increasing lip thickness, more marine protected areas, and a couple other recommendations. The government is moving forward. Having passed the new Fisheries Act, they are now finalizing regulations which will address some of the issues that relate to the pressures on conch.
Meanwhile, 4 Bahamian fishermen were brought to the capital late Saturday night after reportedly being in violation of fisheries regulations. According to the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, the Bahamian fishing vessel Lady J was about 1 nautical mile southeast of Beacon Key when officers boarded and searched the vessel. On board, RBDF officers say they found illegal fishing apparatus, including a diving compressor. The Defense Force says this is the 3rd apprehension in the past month. The details of a new school set to open this fall, that's coming up when our news returns.
Every new season of On the Record, we push the limits. Venture into unknown territory. We take our cameras into places unseen before. We share the stories and experiences that affect us all. And now it's time for Season 5. On the Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on RTV Cable Channel 212 and streaming live on Facebook on the R News Bahamas page.
Welcome back to our news. After a year of uncertainty for students, one school is looking to be the answer to alternative education. Jillian Gray has that.
From business management and marketing to financial management and entrepreneurship, the International School of Business, Entrepreneurship and Technology offers a new way of learning for 7th to 11th graders.
Well, here at ISBT, we offer a curriculum that is business-based, and that is NEFTE. It is the number 1 business curriculum for high school students when it relates to entrepreneurship and business. We also do Springboard language arts, and we also are a college readiness program which prepares students for AP and SAT exams. In conjunction that we do have the flexibility for students to be able to sit the BJC courses as well as the BGCSE.
The Magnet School, which started in the height of the pandemic, is an alternative to traditional education, according to student coordinator Kelly White, who says their boardroom-styled classrooms are aimed at fostering collaboration and innovation. Before having to shut down because of stiffer COVID regulations, the school offered summer courses in coding and robotics, gaming and live streaming, TikTok and videography, and trading and Bitcoin to 20 campers. Some of them successfully launched businesses during the 4-week course.
That excitement, that thrill and that they got to say, you know something, hold on, I made this amount of money after they already took out everything with their expensive. They made that amount of money. This is something that I could perhaps try and do on my own and see how it takes off. So it was one of those things that stood out to me with the very younger ones.
The goal, according to White, is to teach skills that can be transferred to the workplace or savvy entrepreneurial exploits, like professional gaming.
Gaming is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and students are able to take what is considered a hobby into possibly being a career. They were able to live stream. They were able to hopefully look at this and say, you know something, Mom and Dad, I don't just game. I can make money from this. So our multimedia room, we allow students to game.
When the fully solar green school opens for the fall, it'll be a hybrid model of 10 to a class and the option of virtual learning.
You can call our school office at 322-4232, and we're open from Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. As far as fees are concerned, never look at it as a fee. It's an investment. It's an investment in your child's future. In light of COVID, we are understanding that some parents may have that difficulty. we are willing to work with you by a case-by-case basis. No student should miss out on this opportunity to attend this institution.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jillian Gray.
Well, thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Christina Dragovich. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Have a beautiful holiday evening, Bahamas.